Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, it's an exciting time to be in Mexico, to experience your great economic advances, to experience your great economic potential. Privatization, deregulation, liberalization, free markets, the opening up of Mexico, Salinas Troika, solidarity, all of your bottom-up entrepreneurism. Confidence in the Mexican economy, inside and outside the country, is at its highest level in many years. Investments, as you know, are pouring in and returning. Yes, it's really a very, very exciting time to be in Mexico, and I'm delighted to be with you here today. This evening, I shall talk about the present, the decade of the 1990s, and the year 2000. You know, there's a very, very good reason why there's so much talk today about vision, about the future, about the year 2000. And that's because we are experiencing a profound shift in time orientation. Time orientation. In our civilizations, during the long agricultural period, our time orientation was to the past. We learned from the past how to plant, how to harvest, how to store. And I say that to you as someone who was born and raised on a tiny sugar beet farm in southern Utah, in the American West. And in those days, the only thing we knew about farming was what we learned from those who came before us. Orientation to the past. The time orientation during the industrial period was the present. Now, get it out, get it done. Bottom line. But the time orientation of our new global information era is the future, because things are rushing past us with such speed and such complexity that we can't grasp it. We just can't get a hold of it. It is too much. So what we do is to create pictures out in front of us, to create visions in front of us. What do we want to look like? Each of us in our careers in the year 2000. What do we want our company to look like in 1998 or the year 2000? What do we want our country to look like in the year 2000? And then these pictures, these visions, instruct us backwards how to get there. These strong visions, if we have them, we must have them, help us to sort out what we must pay attention to and what we must focus on in order to realize those pictures and those visions. So I think there's no end to talk about the future, about vision, about the year 2000. And now the year 2000, that great symbol of the future, the year 2000 is the future, is now only 8 years away. And I invite you to think backwards 8 years to 1984 to get a sense of how close the next millennium is. Think about what your job was. Think about how old your kids were. This is a pretty young crowd. Think about who you were dating at the time, if that's not too painful. 8 years ago, 1984. In the United States, we remember 1984 as the year that Ronald Reagan was re-elected president. And given those presidential primaries that are taking place to the north of us, it's interesting to remember that Ronald Reagan carried in that election 8 years ago 49 out of the 50 states. You remember that 1984 was the year of the Olympic Games in Los Angeles that we all watched. The American films that were all over the world that year were Amadeus, Beverly Hills Cop, and Ghostbusters. Now that doesn't seem very long ago. Macintosh, the Apple Macintosh was introduced 8 years ago. Well, these things were pretty close. And that's how many years forward the next millennium is. It's just around the corner. And what we do in these next 8 years will shape how we begin that new millennium, how we begin the next 1,000 years. So this evening I should like to talk about some of the things that are happening to position us for this next millennium, for the beginning of this next millennium. The first and most encompassing is the New World Order. The New World Order is a creative association of democratic states all over the world. The post-war order, the old world order, was of course two superpowers, each with an array of countries around them. And then the non-allied countries played the two superpowers off against each other. That's over, and that's why we're having peace talks in the Middle East. Because the superpowers are no longer using the Middle East as a chessboard for their surrogates. But the old world order truly ended and changed with the emergence of Gorbachev, with the global collapse of communism, and with the worldwide cooperative response to the aggression of Saddam Hussein in the Persian Gulf. The United States is now the lone superpower in the New World Order, but, and this is a very large but, it has to act cooperatively with other major powers. And in doing so, the summits of the Group of Seven, the United States, Britain, Germany, Japan, France, Italy, and Canada, the Group of Seven meetings have replaced the importance of the two superpowers, the summits of the two superpowers. And these summit meetings will increasingly work with all the democracies of the world. These 7 countries in the Group of 7 are wealthy democratic countries that share the same approach in running their economies. The shared values of the New World Order have become clear. Freedom of economic choice, free trade, privatization, multi-party democracy, and prosperity based on the marketplace. There are only a few places now